Gonna go ahead and get started. So as you see on your screen at this moment in time, this is just our ABI data collection. We like to go over this because again, I know a few of you all have registered for the meeting. Please note that all of your information is protected and is not being shared with any outside or external organizations. We utilize this information just so we can help and assist with our infrastructure of our policies and of course for our programming at this time. Let's go ahead and jump to the next slide if you don't mind, Ebony. All right. I want to thank you tonight for participating in our Westside Study Group Westside Trail Segment 4 Construction and Westside Park Updates meeting. I am Rashida Williamson, and I am your Community Engagement Manager for the Atlanta Beltline Incorporated, also known as ABI, which is the organization responsible for implementing the vision of the Beltline. Now, we have several members of the ABI team on the call with you tonight. That's just letting you know that we're committed to creating a culture within the organization that values and advances equity and inclusion. So part of that means representation of our 45 plus Beltline neighborhoods on staff. So staff members participating with you tonight represents various disciplines across ABI's organization. We're here to support you with your experience through a presentation, Q&A, and of course, our Facebook Live. So tonight, again, I'm going to be presenting updates on Westside Trail Segment 4 construction, and of course, all those updates that you'll see for Westside Park. So now I just want to provide an overview of the meeting format for tonight. So currently at this moment in time, we are supported by 22 virtual attendees. So that means 22 people in the virtual Zoom room at this moment of time. We are also continuously broadcasting on live to Facebook. So if you are watching on the Zoom platform or the Facebook Live as an attendee, you can always follow along at the agenda, which will be at the top of each slide. And if you're listening by phone, I'm just going to walk you through the meeting's agenda tonight. So our agenda tonight is just going to start off with welcome and meeting logistics. And we'll follow this with just a recap of what's going on with Westside Trail Segment 4 construction, and then next we'll get another update on Westside Park. Afterwards, we'll follow that up with just a Q&A. And again, this is just giving you time for any questions, comments, and of course, conversation. And then we'll just do our wrap up, giving you the contact information. If you see anything going on the trail, we ask that you please reach out to us. So again, if you're just an attendee, you may have noticed by now that your line is muted, but you are able to at least speak during our Q&A, but for right now, your line is going to be muted. And of course, you're not able to share your screen, and that's just to provide the best listening experience for everyone on this line. Now, a recording of this meeting, the presentation, and all of the materials will be made available online at www.beltline.org/meetings. But if we are having any technical difficulties during the meeting on our side, we please just ask that you give us your patience as much as possible. But if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. And now for the fun part of the meeting that we always do. Before we just jump into those project updates, I just want to get a sense of that virtual room. So again, it's just going to ask you those few virtual questions that we always like to ask. So as I start the poll, you should see the question pop up on your screen. Again, this feature is not available if you have called in or viewing on Facebook Live, but I will read the results to the room. So our first question is, what neighborhood do you live in? We have a variety of neighborhoods and representations. Some are both together, some are separate. But again, we just want to know who you are and what you're representing. That just lets people know who are commenting on these projects that are in the room that are your neighbors, but also who are just generally interested outside of the project. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes because I see people starting to participate. All right, let's go ahead and end that poll. I'm going to share the results to the room, and I'm just going to read out loud just the list of the representation that I see. So far right now, we have Blandtown, Knight Park, and Howell Station. Okay, of course, I see Grove Park and Rockdale. We have Vine City and English Avenue. We also have participation from either Hunter Hills, Westlake, or Mosley Park. You have a few people in the room that are in a Beltline neighborhood in the city of Atlanta that's not on this list, meaning they're just not in the Westside Study Group. You have a neighborhood, well, a few people here actually that are in a neighborhood in the city of Atlanta that's not on this list. And then you have a few people in a neighborhood not in the city of Atlanta. So let's go ahead and jump to that next polling question. And it's just going to ask, how long have you lived in your neighborhood? It could be just you renting or owning, but we just want to know, how long have you been there? Let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results with the room. Okay, we have 15 people in the virtual room currently participating via Zoom. They've been there for 1 to 5 years. You have one has been in their neighborhood for 6 to 10 years and 3 for 11 or more years. All right, let's jump to that next polling question. And this is, what is your relationship to the Atlanta Beltline? So this is going to be a multiple choice question, so you can click as many as possible that relates to you. We just want to know if you utilize the trail. Are you a homeowner in a Beltline neighborhood? Do you rent a home in a Beltline neighborhood? Are you a residential landlord, a business owner in a Beltline neighborhood, a commercial landlord, a developer, a real estate broker, a community activist or advocate, or just generally interested in the Beltline project? I see a lot of participation. We love to see that. Love to see that. Now let's go ahead and end those polling results, and I'm going to read that result to the room. Okay, we have 21 people here that use the trail, 16 who are homeowners in a Beltline neighborhood. You have 2 that are residential landlords in a Beltline neighborhood, 2 that are business owners in a Beltline neighborhood, 3 who are commercial landlord in a Beltline neighborhood. We have 1 developer. We have a real estate broker as well. And then, of course, majority are generally interested in the Beltline project. So let's go to this next polling question. This is getting more into the specifics. Now, what we want to know is, what are you most likely to be doing on the physical trail? If it's the weekend, it's during the day. This, again, is multiple choice. Choose as many answers that relate to you. We just want to know, are you utilizing it for exercise and other recreation, so that health and wellness? Are you running errands because you're close by? That's why you want it to live on the Beltline. Do you use it to go to work or to go to school? Or are you just engaging in leisurely activities, just visiting the different commercial properties that we see along the trail? But also, we do have the option of you don't utilize the trail. Okay, let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results with the room. Okay, we have 22 that use it for exercising or other recreation, 11 that run errands, 6 who use it to go to work or school, and 22 who engage in leisurely activities. So lastly, we're going to go to that last polling question, and it's our favorite one we love to ask. Is tonight your first meeting? And this is single choice. This is just a yes or no. All right, let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results. Okay, so we have 23 people in the room that have said no, but we have 3 that have said yes. So again, we love to ask this question between our listeners on our Zoom platform, of course, Facebook Live. Sometimes they participate in the comment section, and then by phone. And we always see that there's at least that one, but tonight we have 3 that this is their first Beltline meeting. So for that, we're going to have a Beltline 101. This will be really quickly, and then we'll jump into our project updates. So this is just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so I just want to take that moment just to provide a high-level overview of the Beltline's portfolio of projects. So we're always going to start off with our vision statement. And of course, that is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. So part of that means working with MARTA in its efforts to implement those 22 miles of light rail transit. We have our goal of 1,300 acres of new green space, another goal of 33 miles of multi-use trails, a goal of 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing, a goal of $10 billion in economic development, other goals of 48,000 construction jobs, 50,000 permanent jobs, the implementation of public art, environmental cleanup, and what we're doing tonight, community engagement. So with that being said, I'm going to jump to this next slide so I can introduce Cynthia Gaines, our Director of Construction. She'll be promoting and discussing Westside Trail Segment 4 construction updates.
Thank you, Rashida. So again, my name is Cynthia Gaines, Director of Construction. Since this specific section started construction about 2 years ago, we've made some wonderful strides in this area, and I'm happy to discuss what we've done over the last 2 years, what we've done, accomplished over the last couple months, and what we can look forward to in the near future. So Westside Trail Segment 4 is a 5-phase project that spans from where the Lionel Hampton Trail dead ends over near the Washington Park Tennis Center. It traverses north and it ties into Westside Trail Segment 3 up by Law Street, if you guys are familiar with this area. So again, we broke this area down into 5 phases, 3 of which we've recently turned over. The final 2 are actually under construction and will be finished for construction in the next few months. And we're still targeting the completion date for May of this year. Next slide. So the first 3 phases, again, starts at Washington Park Tennis Center, heads north, and traverses around the park. It ties into 3 of our 6 bridges, I'm sorry, for this segment. And again, traverses and turns towards, goes north past Westmore and Ollie Street, and it currently dead ends at Mason Turner Drive. So this segment has been open since, I believe, November of this year. So since our last community meeting back in September, we've had this open and available for the general public to use. So we're really excited about that milestone for this project. Next slide. So again, this trail is complete. The pictures that you're looking at on this is the actual, I believe that's Ollie Circle, the picture on the left. Where we have some granite benches for resting for those walking along the trails, and some trash receptacles. Also, this area has elevated trail segments. So when you're walking along it, you'll see that you're actually walking in a canopy of trees. And the reason this section is elevated is because we were really mindful from a design perspective to be cautious not to cause any unnecessary damage to the existing tree canopy in this area. So again, the trail is complete. The lights and cameras are on and burning. And if you're out there, you notice that some of the trees and the landscaping has been planted. We're still in the process of doing that. But again, the general public is welcome to continue to use that trail as we complete that process. Next slide. These are just a couple of pictures of that same area. This is looking north, just south of, I believe that's Ollie Street. If you're standing on the bridge looking north towards Mason Turner, that's the picture on the right. And if you're looking on the picture on the right, you can see the MARTA Railroad tracks just to the left of that picture. The picture on the left, you can see that the landscaping in that area is ongoing. We do have a few trees in that area planted. We have a few more to go that will hopefully get planted out in the next couple months. And hopefully in a couple years that you'll see those trees become in bloom and starting to mature. And again, that canopy, the existing canopy will extend into this area as well. So you'll get to enjoy ABI's Arboretum as you traverse through this area. Next slide. So phase 4 and 5, again, is currently under construction. The last couple bridges on this particular segment are complete. So from Boone heading north, we have already started some concrete pours in that area. So the trail is being poured, just stopping at North Avenue, if you guys are familiar with that area. And once we finish with that first segment of concrete pour in segment 4, we're going to head up to phase 5 and start concrete at the Donnelly Hollowell side, and then head back south and work our ways back towards North Avenue. We're using North Avenue as a construction entrance, so we want to kind of work our way from one side to another to work our way back. Next slide. And again, this final phase will be delivered to you guys in May. We do have the trail poured up to North Avenue heading north. Again, we're going to switch up and start on the north side and head our way back south with the concrete pours. That's our next milestone as soon as we get favorable weather. All the storm lines are in, the retaining walls are in, and all the water management facilities are in. Handrails have started in this area. The lights and cameras are starting to be installed, and the bridges have been poured. Next slide. And again, this is a stormwater retention area that is in the, I believe that's the Valley of the Hawks area on the left side. And on the right side, this is, if you're looking north towards, I think this is just south of North Avenue. We have the trail graded, and we're working on, and this, right now we're working on getting the forms in to get this area poured out. Next slide. And again, this is just the form work going in that I just described to you guys, again, just north of Boone, where we're going to start some concrete work. And I want to say this concrete has been poured already. I think it was poured last week. So again, making great strides in this area. We're excited to hit the target completion date in this area by May of 2025. And I do want to stress that, again, this area is not open to the public north of Boone. It is still an active construction site, and once this area is open, ABI will announce it to the general public to let you know you're ready. And again, this is just south of Dunley Hollowell, where we have some stormwater management going in on on the east side of the 1130 Dunley Hollowell property. And again, just additional construction pictures where you can see this is still very much an active construction site. Next slide. So now I'll turn this over to Megan Endrichuk, our Senior Project Manager for the Westside Park Mountain Bike Pump Track and Trails. Thanks.
Thanks, Cynthia. All right, go to the next slide. All right, so I think this is my second or third time doing this with you guys. But for those of you who haven't joined us for the Westside Park bike park design discussions, we received a grant to design or to bring to complete design a bike park for the existing Westside Park. There was a bike park originally in the master plan for Westside Park that was done, I believe, in 2020. It was actually in a different location from this that logistically was not going to work for what we were trying to do. And we also found greater opportunity to bring in areas of the park that really wouldn't have been developed otherwise, just due to grading issues and steeper slopes. So this is, if you can see it, I'm having trouble seeing it right now, but this is what we have come up with so far. We are at 60% design to documentation with Sherwood Engineering, who's our design team. We are currently in procurement for a construction manager at risk. So bringing in a construction team a little bit earlier so that we can help control costs a little bit better is really key to a project like this. So we're currently in procurement with that. Hopefully we will wrap up around March with a design completion goal of June 2025. Again, this is funded through philanthropic dollars and in the Atlanta Beltline Partnership. But stay on that slide. Sorry, I was going to talk through a couple things. Okay, so this is the overall master plan. It's also up on our website, I believe. The main part of the park, which is this is the upper part. Johnson Road is up at the top, and we call them the beans. So the larger fields that are out there now are the majority of what is accessible in this part of the park. You've also got parking, you've got an existing restroom. And so the bike park, which I'm going to talk about next, which is more of a hardscape, more active area of this bike park, is located kind of right next to the parking and the upper right hand corner. So I'm going to go through a lot of those elements next. But just in the total scheme of things, that's where it's located. And then we have beginner trails for bikers. We have intermediate trails, and then we have kind of more expert level trails going through the middle part of this. Again, this is a wooded area where there was very little other uses that we could do here without doing either mass clearing or mass grading in this area for like a soccer field or something. So this is really utilizing a part of the park and keeping some of the more beautiful canopy trees that are already out there. And with this, there's a lot of non-bikers like myself who use this park. So we are adding in a hiking trail through here. And the hiking trail actually goes through part of this part that highlights a lot of the larger beech trees. Some of the largest beech species we have, or at least that I've seen in the city, definitely that we have in the Beltline overlay parks. And we're also trying to connect the top and the bottom parts of the park. You have this upper part, and then you have the lower part where you have the basin. You've got the playground as well, and a few other fields. There's really only one way within the park to get there right now, and it's pretty steep. And so we're going to have the hiking trail create some more natural connectivity there, and possibly a bike trail as well. And we're working very diligently within the existing tree ordinance to be able to do this and give you as much trail as we can. But what you see here is the full design, and we're working right now with our donors as well as our design team to see how we would phase something like this in. A lot of these elements are very specialized and technical and can be pretty expensive, but we're going full out in the design so that we're able to then return and phase in pieces if we need to. We're not sure right now, which phases those will be. That'll probably be in our next meeting. So next slide. All right, so this is the part that I was talking about. That's the hardscape bike park. This includes a bicycle playground, what are called jump lines. I think I've got a better photo of that next. An asphalt pump track, skills course, and we have like a start area or an overlook. One of the great things about this part of the park that we chose was that you have a really nice view of both the reservoir and downtown. And so we have an overlook portion that'll be a part of a plaza that both bikers and just general park users or visitors can walk up and see the overlook. It's kind of the start off point too for all the bike facilities. So next slide. So these are kind of more scaled versions of what I was talking about before. You've got the jump lines to the left and the asphalt pump track to the right. Right now we're working on different materials and also how do we break up kind of asphalt's the general material that seems to be used in these bike parks, but with our summers here in Atlanta, and also the tree ordinance and the pride in our tree canopy within this park, we're trying to bring a lot more shade into these areas as best we can. And so you'll see a lot more green come in here and a lot more trees, but we really just kind of wanted to give you an idea of the material choices that we're going to go with. So next slide. All right, and this is the bicycle playground, and it has a lot of, it's kind of like its name. It has a lot of lower risk features for newer riders to kind of get their balance and get their confidence up to then kind of maybe progress onto some of the other elements that we've got built in throughout the park. And then there's also a skills course, which is a little bit more technical. We're also going to be using a lot of, or at least trying to use a lot of the same materials that are also already present within the park. So it's a lot of granite and some Corten steel that you'll see coming up in some other renderings that we've got. But we're really trying to mold this into the existing park design framework as best we can. Next slide. So the hiking trail. In the upper right, you've got the overall map kind of showing you, I think the orange is where you've got special features, I believe, within the hiking trail. But again, this is just a natural surface trail. There'll be some areas for seating. One of the things that we definitely wanted to do was, even if you're not a biker, there are some viewing areas where you can watch the bikers kind of come through the woods without having to either participate or get in their way. A lot of times we've found that these trails can be both hiking and biking, but we're really trying through signage and through a couple other methodologies with our design to make this a solely hiking trail for the safety of all users, really. But we also, again, want to highlight a lot of the old growth forest and some of these larger trees that we found throughout here with the hiking trail. So along the way, we're also adding in wayfinding signage, which I'll also get to, and some historical and ecological education signage. Next slide. So plazas, as I mentioned before, we're bringing in a totally new use into an existing park design framework. And you have to do this really carefully and take into account a lot of consideration in molding these two activities or these two spaces, these two active areas into, you know, cohesive park design. So we're doing that in two ways where we intersect. They're highlighted in orange in the upper right map. But really using a lot of the same materials that you already see in the park today in these two plazas to kind of mold in this new use. And we're also going through, I mean, the park was just renamed as well by City Council, I believe it was last week, as Shirley Clark Franklin Park. And so we had already planned with the Parks Department's help to redo all of the signage within the park that has maps. Some of it needs some maintenance, but we're also adding in a whole nother aspect of the park. So we have to remap what the park looks like. And so we're redoing the wayfinding already. Some of that name change will come in on these signs that we've got here, but one of the bigger things that we're going to have to deal with is making sure that the signage is, you know, readable and appropriate, because we don't want a beginner winding up, you know, on one of the harder trails that we're building here, and vice versa. So we're taking into consideration a lot of, you know, how do we put up signs without making it look like Las Vegas? So our team's working on that right now, and the plazas play a big role in that. So next slide. Beginner trails. There's several beginner elements within this. One is a larger trail, and the other is a trail that actually parallels kind of the existing outer sidewalk of the park. It's really just a separate trail where if you have your kids you know, riding on the beginner trail, you can walk right next to them on the sidewalk. And it's kind of really just a smoother area, but it does have features. We don't know if it's going to be paved. I think it's going to be paved. It could be smoother rock area. We're not really sure right now. But it will parallel the existing sidewalk. It'll be separated with either trees or some kind of vegetation there. And there will be some opportunities for viewing. There's a great view of downtown on some of this, and some seating and definitely some shade in here. So next slide. The intermediate trails, you can kind of read on the screen what is included in these. But these kind of make up the bulk of the trail system. Again, we're trying to use, these are natural surface trails, but we're also trying to reuse a lot of the rock that we might find on site for either an obstacle or to create kind of a view shed or scenery. And again, we'll have a lot of wayfinding signage throughout here. There could be some bridges and boardwalks. There's a lot of tree roots that we have to take into consideration when we're building these things, especially with our tree ordinance. So we're working pretty diligently to mitigate a lot of that. So next slide. Gravity trails. These are kind of more the expert level trails that we're designing. There's a lot of large drops and jumps throughout this one. But it is a natural surface trail again. I think we will be using a lot more. We're trying to use the grade that exists right now out there as much as we can, and there's some really good spots for this. So we're trying to minimally grade all of these trails, but especially this one. But there will be some pretty rugged terrain and some switchbacks, reuse of existing rocks, and reuse of some fallen trees that are already out there for us. So yes, you will not see me on these, but next slide. All right, and those are all my slides. Rashida?
Good. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you both, Megan and Cynthia, for those wonderful presentations. Of course, this is a lot of updates, a lot of new information that we're able to share. So again, as stated at the beginning of the meeting, we are going to start our Q&A session. Now, that's if you have any questions regarding Westside Trail Segment 4 construction, or it's regarding Westside Park and all the updates that we've provided. The Q&A is open right now. So I'm just going to walk through of how you can participate. So again, we're going to take as many questions as we can live as possible. If we do run out of time, of course, we'll provide a Q&A report later on. But again, questions and comments can be typed or verbally expressed by raising your hand. Now, again, our audience is going to be made up of Zoom online and phone attendees, as well as Facebook Live attendees. So I'm going to briefly go over how you can contribute. So if you are a phone attendee, because I do see I have a few in the room, if you would like to speak, all you'll do is press star 9. Let me say this again, star 9 on the telephone keypad to raise your hand when the discussion begins, and a member of the team will open your line when it is your turn, and then your phone will prompt you to press star 6 to unmute yourself so you can ask that question. Now, if you are my Zoom online attendee, again, you can submit your response at any time in the Q&A box. I see I have a few questions coming in. You can also upvote a response or a question that you see by clicking the thumbs up icon. And of course, you have the option to raise your hand, but I will be taking phone attendees first if I do see any hands raised. Now, if you're a Facebook Live attendee, all you have to do is participate in the comment section, and someone on my staff will let me know that you have asked a question. And so far, we only have one question at this time, and it's a two-part. This is for Landers, and this will be for you, Cynthia. And technically, it is Megan, because Megan was over at Westside Trail Segment 3. But the first question, how will Westside Trail connect to across Donald Lee? And will it be a continuous strip to the northwest segment?
Hey, Landers, thank you for that question. So at Donald, DLH, I'm going to call it that. I'm sorry, tongue twister. It actually runs under Hollowell Parkway. So it's an overpass that crosses over towards the skate park, heading towards downtown. The trail runs under. Now, to connect from the trail up to Donald Lee Hollowell, there are 2 points of connectivity. One is directly next to the skate park on the south side of the bridge. And on the north side of the bridge, there's another connection point that's catty corner. They are both ADA accessible, so all wheels should be able to access those points. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Cynthia. Megan, these next two questions are going to be for you. The first one is from Andres. And it says, are there any plans for pedestrian access to Westside Park from Marietta Boulevard Northwest?
I get this question a lot. Yes, I'm excited to say yes. So the Upper West Side CID received a grant that will be doing the design and construction along West Marietta Boulevard from where we have the Westside, Westside Segment 3 ending right at that corner. So there will be a connection there. I have not been involved in those designs as of yet. I'm not sure if Cynthia has either, but there will be a connection from West Marietta Boulevard into Westside Park entry on Johnson Road, from our understanding. So it is under Westside CID. I'm not sure if they have it on their website yet, but.
Okay. The next question, will the discussed Beltline Connector run to the Shirley Franklin Park, and will this be completed anytime soon? I believe they're referring to the Westside Beltline Connector. That's what I'm thinking that they're referring to.
So.
You want to ask for more information?
Yeah, so Westside Beltline Connector Trail that goes all the way from downtown actually connects both the Marietta Boulevard Trail and the trail Westside Segment 4 that Cynthia went through at a plaza in Law Street. And then it will connect up to Shirley Franklin Park along the connection I just talked. I know this is so confusing. Along the connection I just talked about from Marietta and West Marietta that Upper West Side CID is working on. So please let me know if I answered that. I don't know if I did.
Yes, Demetrius, please comment, say thank you, or if you want to expound upon that question, just add a little bit more context if you don't mind. This next question is from Jay Zambrano. Any news on the project regarding segment 4 connecting to Proctor Creek Trail? I believe this will be for Cynthia.
So there are options that we are looking at for connectivity. Who will be completing that work, whether it's us, the city, or one of our other partners, is still kind of up in the air. But the connectivity is definitely in the cards, and trying to understand what that looks like and the timing of it. So stay tuned. We hope to provide more details in the near future.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I believe this question will be for Megan. This is from a iPhone. When will the hiking trail be ready?
So we hope to be in construction by probably late this summer is a goal. We'll have all of our drawings done by June, and then it's kind of a wait and see with the permitting. We're hoping just 6 to 8 weeks for permitting. So I don't really have a date on when we would get started, or how we would phase this in. I will say, and just going over a lot of this with our design team, and with a few expert trail builders that we've talked to about these types of trails, they will go in pretty quickly. But again, I think in my next update, I hope to have a little bit more detail in when we could start to see some construction action, as well as, you know, what all is going to get built in this first phase. But the hiking trails will be in the first phase.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. These next few questions are for you, Megan. There's another question from Jay Zambrano. Is the Westside Park turning into a sports training center?
Not that I know of. So I don't comment if from where you heard that. But right now we are only scoped for the bike park part of this. The only other things I've heard of in some very high level discussions, high level in terms of just like ideas that the Parks Department and I have been talking about, are areas that might be small skate park pockets. And then there's always the please find places for pickleball discussion, that we actually had one today. So I have not heard anything about sports training centers.
Okay, the next question is from iPhone. Will more concerts be held at Westside Park, and will there ever be a stage set up?
I wish I could answer that. I hope there will be more concerts there because I live pretty close by. But I am not sure. That's really up to what the Parks Department permits and what promoters want to come out and do some concerts. So
This next question is from Arthur. Megan, will personal electric vehicles, PEVs, like electric unicycles or one wheels, be allowed to use any portions of the bike trails, parks, and playgrounds?
So great question. It's apparently quite a debate amongst the bike communities. And we've seen some of this at the Fourth Ward Park Skate Park. From a safety perspective, we will have signs that discourage the electric scooters and probably the one wheels from the more natural trails. Just by its nature, it's not really conducive to those things. From a safe perspective, I believe there will be use of electric or electric assist bikes on the natural mountain biking trails. And within the bike park, there are elements that will accommodate either electric unicycles, one wheels, or electric scooters to an extent. But once we get into deeper technical design, we're going to have discussions on how to sign some of those things, because some of those areas that are a lot more technical are going to be really just for the biking community, and having multiple modes going different speeds could create a safety issue. So those are definitely discussions that we're having now and that we have had, but we won't really know where those areas are going to be until we get into more detail. But yes, there will be areas for all of those things you mentioned and more, including some skatable areas as well. So
Thank you. It'll probably give you a break. This next question is from Frank. Does the Southwest portion have a quarterly Zoom? If so, how can I get the info about joining? Yes, Frank. So I am the community engagement manager when it comes to the Southeast and Southwest study groups. So those portions of the trail, we actually have 2 community meetings actually coming up. So you can go to beltline.org/meetings. I'll have somebody drop that in the chat for you again. It's beltline.org/meetings. And so those up 2 meetings that we'll have is actually this February. The first one is on February 18th. If you would like more information about our Southside Trails construction for 2 through 5 and the segment 6 design, that'll be on February 18th. It'll be a virtual meeting at 6:30 p.m., just the same format. If you'd like to know more information about our 356 property redevelopment, we are actually having an update on that, and that'll be on the 20th of February. But again, we'll do those quarterly meetings. They'll kind of be in tandem with Westside since I'm over both of those portions of the trail. And again, this by dates may vary, but we'll always have it posted. They'll always be quarterly, but you can go to beltline.org/meetings just so you can go ahead and register and sign up for those meetings. Okay, and this next question is from a NAMC. I'm going to read it till its full content. I'm going to have Cynthia answer it first, and then I'm going to tag along on the end to answer some of your other questions. But the question is, when it comes to the economic impact of this work, specifically construction jobs and permanent jobs, is there a progress meter for the goals so we can see where we are and the number of years out we are from attaining them? You can go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So our construction contracts are set up where we have a 30% participation goal for DBE and minority contractors. So far, I can say at least over the time I've been here over the last 3 years, we have been able to reach that goal on all our projects. And that's just not from a quantity perspective from the number of subcontractors, that is actually from a dollar perspective. So if you got depending on the contract size, we're looking at 30% of that money going back to minority contractors. We have been able to hit that goal on our lot projects. Many of our projects have been able to exceed that goal depending on the solicitation type that we've been able to utilize on here. So we are able to see that we are able to strive and hit that progress meter, as you were saying. So, and we're actually looking at all of our projects across the entire 22-mile loop, and what's remaining to ensure that we're going to hit that at least 30%, and in many other cases, more than that. As far as the economic development portion of that and the permanent jobs, Rashida, do you have any additional information on that?
Yes, so I'm actually outreaching to one of our representatives of the Economic Development Department. At this time, we don't know if we have a figure that shows the physical breakdown when it comes to those permanent jobs. But at this moment in time, I am going to suggest you do this for me. And this is just to make sure you get your answers questioned fully to an extent. I did let them know to go ahead and have those numbers or at least something ready for our quarterly briefing. That'll be this Thursday, February 13th. If you want to go to beltline.org/meetings again, register for that one. We'll have your Vice President of Economic Development actually on the call providing updates. And then also you'll see the Vice President of Design and Construction. So even with Cynthia's answer, if you still have any other follow-up questions, they'll be able to answer those questions as well for you. But again, if you show up this Thursday, same virtual meeting, we will have both of those representatives there, and I'll have those physical numbers for you and possibly an infographic to answer your question.
And Rashid, sorry, we do have areas, or we do track those numbers of especially how many of our construction teams have used either a workforce empowerment or workforce development program locally for construction workers within them, or at least we used to have those numbers. And there's also on our website, there's a resident job training and placement workforce development part. If you just type in workforce development under search, there's a lot of different resources, on that part of our website that I'm looking up right now. So some of that documentation can be found there too, if you're not able to join quarterly briefing. So
thank you so much, Megan. Power of teamwork. Okay, I have a phone call attendee. You should be able to press *6 to unmute yourself. see you've unmuted. Can you, oh, there we go.
Hi.
Hi.
This question is for Megan. Megan, is there any lighting or light rail intersecting from the North Side Drive under the tunnel area to the West Side Shirley Franklin Park?
Lighting into the tunnel. Cynthia, do you know where this is?
I do not, can you say that one more time?
It's the underpass that leads from North Side Drive through to the right at Donnelly Hollowell Parkway.
You're asking for light rail or just lights in general? I want to be sure.
Lighting in
That sounds
general,
light.
and if there's also an anticipated light rail that intersects with that from the North Side Drive underpass under Donnelly Hollowell Parkway to the West Side Shirley Franklin Trail.
Is that the area, the path bridge? Is that the area I'm thinking about?
I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
Think so, yeah. Right now, in terms of lighting, we do have lights on the trail on top of that bridge. Also, there will be lighting that we're adding in the park, wherever there's hardscape. But light rail wise, Cynthia,
So, for that particular area, and Rashida, correct me if I'm wrong, was that part of the transit study that?
Part of the transit study. So we actually will have those updates for a quarterly briefing for that to know if we have plans coming for that area.
Thank you.
No problem. And again, just register again for that meeting. That's this Thursday. All right, we'll go to this next question. This is from Perry. Is there any plans to make part of the Westside Beltline around the intersection of Marietta Boulevard and West Marietta Street safer? It still feels so dangerous as the pedestrian around here. Thanks.
I can take that one. Yes. So it will be the intersection that I believe Westside CID is going to work with to get that connection into Shirley Franklin Park. But we are working with the city. I know there's an issue with the handrails that just keep getting hit over and over by trucks. So the city's been working with ABI through ATL-DOT to work on some stop bar moving to avoid the trucks hitting, and also some more or some heftier handrails so that we can avoid having those being hit over and over again and having to replace them. So I know that is ongoing. I'm also working on the connection up by Huff Road to connect into what we call Northwest 5, which goes down Ellsworth, or goes down to Ellsworth. I think once we have a few more pedestrian crossings within a small area, things will start to slow down. I can't guarantee that, but there's also been some discussions of a little bit more traffic enforcement, especially when it comes to people stopping at stop bars, people stopping for pedestrians. And the city has brought up a few times on the improvement of the Marietta and West Marietta, would that be the northeast corner that's been blocked off for, I think it's going on at least 4 years now, and how they're going to kind of remedy that from a pedestrian perspective as well. But I wish I had a better update for you. But
Thank you. And just for that question about the economic development impact, I did get a few more answers and some numbers if you haven't already gotten online. But just to let you know, Beltline wide, it looks like we're up 29,400 permanent jobs and 62,860 construction jobs and over 9 billion in private development. That's just the numbers that I got just now. But again, like I stated, if you want more information or go into more detail, just show up for a meeting, or you could just always email me as well. My contact information will be posted later and I could get you to the right department. This next question is from iPhone. This may not be relevant to this call, but what decisions were made regarding the Beltline will with it running through Underwood Hills? So will the Beltline run through Underwood Hills? Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, hi, Kevin Burke, Director of Design. The Beltline Segment 4 runs along the very southern edge of Underwood Hills, as I understand it, adjacent to the waterworks as it goes from Blandtown over to Howell Mill and then continues on down Traber. Cynthia, you may know better. I don't know what the current schedule is for letting that contract.
So, if you're on, Hallowell, I mean, not Hallowell, sorry, Howell Mill, on the east side, of it, Traber towards, Monday Night Brewery. That project, the design is wrapping up and we're still going through the permitting process. On the west side, we currently have a CM at risk contractor, onboarded who is helping us with some budget pricing and scheduling issues. We're still going through some real estate issues that are quite tricky through that area. And we're hoping to start construction in that area sometime before the end of the year, depending on when we can actually finish up the real estate on that. So everything is tied up with that. Areas that we can potentially turn over early, we will, ahead of that start of a year, but we're still kind of working through that, with the contractor and with those entities that we're working through to, acquire the real estate.
Thank you, Cynthia. This next question, if one of you, Kevin or Cynthia, would like to stay on the line, just if you want to give them the information, but I know I can answer the first part. This is from Kirsten. Hi, can you share if you have any meetings scheduled to discuss updates about the Woodall Trail and segment that covers Huff Road and adjacent areas?
I can take that.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Kevin. So right now, I just looked on the website. I don't have anything for the north that's considered, well, the Woodall Trail is, I believe, complete, and that's a path foundation trail. And it connects into the Huff Road Trail, which is Northwest Trail Segment 5. We currently don't have a meeting. I can give you a 30-second update, which is that we are continuing to work on Elaine Avenue in installing the trail along Elaine Avenue that will then go up and turn down Marietta Boulevard to meet up with Huff Road, where we ended and the Westside Trail several years ago up there. Right now, the trail is scheduled to open. There's more of it that turns into more of a corridor. Once you hit Ellsworth Industrial and the Woodall Trail right there. Right now, we're scheduled for a fall 2025 completion date, but we're working with our contractor. Obviously, once we open things within the right of way, sometimes we have to turn them over a little bit sooner. It's hard to keep people off of them. I'm not sure when the area along Marietta or Elaine would be completed, but it would probably be prior to the fall 2025 date that I just talked about. So I think once we get closer to having some real progress and closer to possibly having some right-of-way completed that connects into the Woodall Trail, we'll have another meeting. I'm just not sure when that would be.
So I can answer that. Since you said it's Northwest Trail Segment 5, that is Nathan's meeting, so that'll actually be early March. Right now,
Okay.
we're looking at the date of March 3rd. So if you would like to come to that meeting, you can do so. It's not on the website just yet. I would say check back in 2 weeks just to register for the meeting. And you'll be able to get as much information and meet the project managers for that as well, Kirsten. And thank you for saying thank you about answering the question. And this next question is from TJ Austin. Megan, if you want to come back, or Kevin, I'll read it out loud.
Got it.
Any updates on the strategy or plans to create Westside Park connectivity to the neighborhoods to the south of the park? As Westside Park sits in the Grove Park and Rockdale neighborhoods, there's a consistent lack of updates and design implementations on these calls as it relates to improving accessibility to neighbors to the south. As mentioned, the Upper West Side CID is focused on higher income household areas, not the lower income communities to the south. We've heard about CSX active rail issues for years at this point, so I would hope that there is an alternative plan in place if the CSX issues continue.
So that question has many different layers to it. Let me start and hopefully I can get to all of them. The major issue is connecting the park to the Grove Park neighborhood. That is a City of Atlanta Parks Department issue. It's not part of any Beltline implementation. My recollection was that there was discussion on that very issue when Parks was doing the master planning for Westside Park. I've lost track of time, but several years ago. In regards to the Atlanta Beltline, as has been mentioned, we are looking at, or will be looking at, connecting Westside Trail 4 and Westside Beltline Connector down Hollowell to Bankhead and Proctor Creek. And at some point in the next year or two, potentially, depending on funding, looking at the Proctor Creek Greenway south of Hollowell. As regards to CSX, that parallels the east side of the park. And there were discussions or thoughts, if you will, when Microsoft was still considering building its campus, finding a way to go under CSX. I know that a potential developer further up on Marietta had some early ideas of a bridge over CSX to connect Marietta to the park, but that doesn't really get you what you're asking in terms of Grove Park. I really would suggest that you reach out to the Parks Department and ask them for where they stand on that connection.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate that. This next question is for Allison, and I know I can answer this. Will the slides be sent to the attendees after the meeting concludes? I missed the first big chunk of the meeting, but would love to watch a recording or review the slides. Thank you. Allison, at this time, we do not send out the presentation anymore after the mass emails, but what we do actually is post them on our website under the current jobs webpage. It'll be under the current projects, current jobs. What you'll do is you'll see all of the past meeting presentations we've already had. If you want to see a review of the presentation currently in that live recording, right now, currently we're on Facebook Live, so people are seeing it just like you are, so that recording will live on that Facebook page for the Facebook videos. If you want to view that right after this meeting, you can do so as well, and then we'll always transform it and put it on our YouTube as well. So those are multiple options. You can watch it, but the presentation will be up within 48 hours. All right, this last question I see, and it could be the last question for the evening. Again, I'm gonna allow the room at least 3 more minutes after we answer this question just to see if you have any more, and then we'll close out. This question is from Michael. Can you give a timeline for when the city will move from its North Avenue location? How long after they move before the North Avenue access to the Beltline is given?
Michael, I wish I could definitively answer your question, but to my knowledge at this point, I have not heard of a timeline for when the various departments at the North Avenue city maintenance sites will be moving. So I can't give you a timeline for when there will be a connection. I do know that our housing department has filed or is filing a what's called a DRI, Development of Regional Interest, with the Atlanta Regional Commission that assumes that that parcel will become available. And that plan shows very conceptually It could change, that there will be a connection from that site up to the trail in some fashion, and where it is yet to be determined.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So at this time, I see no more questions in the Q&A box, but of course, if you've been to any of my community meetings, you'll know that I'll still take them as we continue out to close out the meeting. So again, just before we close out, I'm going to have those few additional questions, and as you start the poll, the questions should pop up on your screen. Now, this feature is not going to be available if you have called in or are viewing in a browser online, but I will read the results to the group. So the first question is, was the information tonight presented? Was the information presented tonight helpful? I do apologize. I saw we had a question to pop up, so I'm going to answer that after we close out this first poll. All right, let's go ahead and end the poll and share the results with the room. And we have a majority saying yes, which is a good thing. So I'm gonna go to TJ's question, and I believe this is going to go back to you, Kevin. He just asked for clarity. ABI is not responsible for Westside Park connectivity, and this is still the responsibility of the Department of Parks and Recreation. He was under the impression that ABI was transferred over the design and all other forms of the park build out from the DPR, Department of Parks and Recreation.
That last part is correct to the degree that we are tasked with implementing what the park asks us, the Parks Department asks us to implement. To date, they have not asked us to look at connectivity to the south or anything beyond the project that Megan described, the pump track and the mountain bike trails.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, I'm going to move over to the next polling question. And again, if you do have any other questions, go ahead and drop them. But this last polling question, did you learn something new? This is just a yes, no, or need more clarity. Okay, let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results with the room. And I have majority of the room stating yes, they did learn something new. I do have one that stated no, they need more clarity. So with that being said, let's go to the last slide, if you don't mind, for me, Ebony. This is just all of our contact information. So if you have a question or a comment about any of the information that we had tonight, I would suggest go ahead and emailing me. That's rwilliamson@atlbeltline.org. I'll make sure to point you into the right contacts. Or if it's for Westside Trail Segment 4 construction, you will contact Jay Seaver. His email is there. For Westside Park, you have Brittany Brewster. She is the community engagement manager over that. So if you want to email her for any of those questions, you can do so. And then, of course, the project manager that you spoke to tonight, Megan and Jay Chalk. Again, all of our information is there and posted in the chat. I want to thank you all for being a part of this meeting tonight. Again, our first quarterly briefing will be this Thursday, February 13th at 6:30 p.m. virtual format. You'll get a chance to meet all of our vice presidents of each departments and programs that we have. We have a lot of updates that we just want to share with you all. And of course, we'll have an address from our CEO and President, Clyde Higgs. So all I can say is I hope to see you all on the Beltline in the future. Y'all have a good night.